Good afternoon. Welcome to our next CBGI in Advanced Iowa Coping with COVID webinar. My name is Patrick Linsman. I'm the man behind the curtain for these as we kind of get them kicked off. Looks like we've got everybody joining in now and things are live. So today joining us, we've got Dan Binkin with our Advanced Iowa program at the University of Northern Iowa, and Joshua McNary, who is an expert in many things. And I'm going to let Dan introduce him a little bit further. I'm stealing a little bit of his thunder. If you're joining us on Facebook Live, welcome. Feel free to leave comments or questions for us down there on the Facebook Live, and we'll make sure those get back to Dan and Josh. And if you're with us in the Zoom meeting, feel free to put them into the chat or the Q&A. We want to keep this pretty informal, but also informative and helpful. This session is being recorded and will be able to be viewed up on the Advanced Iowa and Center for Business Growth and Innovation websites after we're done. So with that, I will turn it over to Dan. He'll tell you a little bit more about Josh and a little bit about what we're going to be talking about today.
All right, thanks, Patrick. This is Dan Binkin. Welcome, everybody. First of all, I just want to mention at the Center for Business Growth and Innovation, we recognize that times are incredibly crazy right now for all small business owners. This webinar series is one way we're trying to do our part to hopefully educate on some of the bigger topics that you're facing right now. We're working in conjunction with our Institute for Decision Making on campus that's been doing a survey of almost 15,000 businesses already in the last week about the issues that they're facing. One of those issues at the top of the list is this whole concept of virtual employment, and who once was right down the hall from me is now 3, 4, 5, 10 miles away, and even if I wanted to go check on them to see how hard they were working, I'm being told I should stay at home, right, Joshua? So let's get into this one and talk a little bit about virtual work. I know with your firm, you have McNary Marketing. With your firm, you've got both contract employees on the 1099 side of the fence who are virtual, but then you've also got those W-2 traditional employees that many of our listeners have that, and for them, they once were on site, right? And now they're not. And how do we manage that? What are some of the first things that we do from a communication standpoint to, I would say, ensure a level of confidence and comfort that they're out there working and not catching up on Netflix, so to speak? How do we go through that?
I don't have any magic solution to monitor Netflix use of your employees, but I'll try to help with some other ideas. Thanks for having me. Appreciate you all having me here, as well as all of you joining us live and recording of this. So with my firm, McNary Marketing Design, marketing technology and web development firm, we have some special knowledge about how to do this because we've been doing it for a long time. Personally, I've been a productivity geek really my entire career, and I've tried to figure out how to be very productive remotely, going way back before it even was the cool thing to do or the things we have to do in the current status of the states. I would start with really thinking about just over communicating. I mean, this is probably true for most managers, even when you are in the same room with them, that you need to communicate more and more clearly. From my experience, I know I've learned that lesson through my experience as a manager, but in this time, we have the uncertainty of the situation, for one, and then the changes that are being made here. We're all forced to be remote now. And then we have the work that we have to accomplish. I mean, it's like kind of in that pecking order. There's like, it really starts with that human need first, then the fact that we need to think about our work. So I would start with just thinking about over communicating. So one of the first things I did was move my meetings that I had, my one-on-ones and other regular meetings, some of which were already remote because of my people being remote, but the ones that got switched to be remote, I just rescheduled them as Zooms, set a time. We're going to still do these exactly the same way we did before. Or I've told them, in fact, today I was telling one of my people, anything comes up, just contact me. We'll talk, we'll find time to do it today, because we just can't have that interaction directly anymore. So if you want to talk, let's figure out how to hop on a Zoom or some other video chat and have that meeting. And I just did one before I got on this call. And actually I have another one I have to do after I get off this call, just to check in and help my staff.
So you feel part of it for you as the boss, the owner. And I've heard this from a couple of our clients this week, is that I, 3 weeks ago, I felt like a fairly productive individual. And now I feel like I'm sitting in front of a computer, talking virtually to people all day long, and the communication pipeline is much slower, and it takes a lot more effort from me now to manage it. Are you seeing a lack of efficiency because of that? Are you just, it's one of those things you have to deal with? How are you trying to keep some of that efficiency when everything is so hard now, I guess?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I started by saying over communicate, and then I said, try to recreate what you normally do in the virtual environments as much as possible. I mean, video chat is one of the key ways to do that. Still have turn on the video, make your people turn on the video, so that you have that ability to perceive their emotions and have that as much as possible in interaction with a human on a screen. But
when they say, "Oh, my camera isn't working," you say, "Try another excuse. I want to see your face," right?
Right, or let's get it right for next time. Let it fall.
Okay.
Don't let it follow. But I think the tension you're talking about there, outside of some of the initial suggestions I was making, is just if you're not as tech comfortable, or this is just new to you, period. Even if you can master technology fairly quickly, it does take some time to get it to start feeling it. And I felt like last week, even with regards to the crisis, there was just like kind of a shock and awe effect that people were having, just like the whole thing just being thrown into it.
Mm-hmm.
I think this week and then future weeks, people are going to start adjusting. The new normal is really going to set in. I would imagine for many of you that might feel uncomfortable with this way of managing your people, that just like anything, you practice a little bit, you think about it, you could read about it. There's a lot of good resources out there already to help you think about how to manage or how to remote work better. We put up a website, which we could talk about, that speaks to this as well. But learning and trying new things and experimenting, just like when you're in the office, you need to continue to evolve yourself as a manager, as a leader. And now you just have to do it using these tools rather than person.
Yelling down the hall. So if we take a step back, maybe for those who haven't used a platform like this before, and I've got this question to me now on a couple of pings here since we've been talking,
Sure.
Let's say I want to use, I want to dip my toe into this virtual stuff. I don't want to sign up for a monthly subscription, blah, 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 whatever it might be. Where do I start with something cheap and easy?
So we're using, well, right now, Dan and I are using anyways. I know some of you are watching on Facebook, but Dan and I are using Zoom, the video conferencing software Zoom. And that platform is probably right now, the granddaddy of the screen share tools. I think it's fairly easy to use, pretty good user interface. And technology-wise, it works well. I mean, getting the video working and such, I've seen the least amount of friction there. And there's a free version, right? So you could use the free version, not have to, bind anything initially. I pay for it. Anytime I find the software very helpful and I'm using it a lot, I usually try to pay for it. So you might feel that way as well as you use it and need more of the advanced features. But Zoom is great to dip your toes in, and there's some great integrations with it. For instance, that if you use, say, Google Calendar or some of their tools, that you can integrate it with your tools. So when you book that meeting with someone on your existing system, you very easily add a conference call and it just magically creates it. And then you just click a button when it's time in the calendar invite.
All right, great. Anything you want to share about some of the other platforms that are out there?
Well, the two other that I would usually recommend for video conferencing, since we're starting there, is GoToMeeting is one of those granddaddy ones that's been around forever. Still very useful, and you probably have used it, so you might be more comfortable with that. I've seen maybe some more technical issues there over the years on that one, but it doesn't handle video as gracefully as this. It's really meant for screen sharing. But I would, that's a good one, obviously, as well. And then join.me, join.me, which is actually owned by the same people as GoToMeeting now, but it's has the ability for the other user, the visitor, say you want to do a one-on-one meeting, you can just give them a link and they can go to a web page and see. They don't have to download anything essentially, and that's kind of a nice feature. Some of these other tools have that too, but Join.me was one of the ones in the last couple of years that really popularized that.
And they all work great off of a phone and things like that too?
Yeah, they all have different phone applications. Again, Zoom, I think, is where I put my money if you want simplicity and the greatest, me to tell you that's probably going to be the one you're going to have the least technical problems with. Not to say you won't. Don't come yell at me. Talk to their support if you need help on your machine. But generally, I've seen that work the best for the most people in recent.
All right. So if we want to start with something, maybe start there with their free version and see how we like it. All right, cool.
But yeah, let me chime in too. And something else I want to point out is obviously video chat has really been something that's come up a lot in the last couple of weeks. But you also want to think about your existing platforms, meaning your email platforms, Office 365 or Google Apps or maybe Dropbox or some of these other platforms you already had in place that help you with file sharing and email and other communication methods, and really evaluate what's possible there. So of course, within Google Apps, they have something called Google Hangouts, which is their video chat tool. And certainly email has its place in this situation, and certainly chat has its place in these situations. And all those platforms have different versions of that. So maybe if you have used some of those things before, maybe you just look at maybe expanding the use of those tools just one notch to improve one part of your communication, and then maybe also to go get the video chat tool. And that might be a way of maybe not being so scary about jumping into all these new tools and downloading every new app and subscribing to 10 things by just extending some of the things you've already been doing.
Okay, great. So example that is if we're already using a Gmail powered email, maybe we look at trying the Hangouts option that they have for that type of thing.
Yeah, that's for the video chat, but also for just text chat, they have a tool and whatnot. I mean, and I could talk about we could go wherever you want next, Dan. But there's text tools we could talk about. There's other all these different communication methods, and maybe I'll just add one more piece on that is to say that as you think about the different communication methods, whether it be video, text, email, the old telephone, think about what level of communication each of those represents. Kind of how, so when you're at the office, okay, I need to go talk to somebody, I stand up, I go find them, or maybe you have open office hours, they come find you, or maybe you send an email in the office, even though they're sitting over there. There's a correlation of these different tech methods that kind of correlate to the same type of communication. So maybe a text message.
Priority and importance, etc. Yep. Okay. If we take a step back, kind of away from the technology side of it and the sources of the technology, and we talk now about how to manage these folks who are no longer down the hall, who I am not seeing exactly what time they clock in and clock out anymore because they're not sharing a parking lot with me anymore. How do we I think trust is one of those big ones. How do we start to build that level of trust that we are, as an owner, getting our money's worth out of them, so to speak, while also not looking too callous, given the nature of the situation of why we're all working from home to begin with? You want to share some thoughts on that?
Sure. Well, having that regular routine of check-ins, as I spoke to in the beginning, is one piece. Right now, I meet with my primary people. Well, a few of them I'm meeting once a week because they're more part-time in their role, so we don't need to be meeting every day. But then I have other people that I meet with every day. And we just do a 10, 15-minute check-in, usually when I walk in the office in the morning, but now we're doing it virtually. And having that check-in to communicate, okay, what worked well, what didn't go well yesterday, what are our big goals today, or what are your big goals today, and then maybe we had a comment on those. And then are there any blocks that I can get out of your way for you as a manager? That's our typical stand-up meeting, one-on-one meeting routine. And so maybe if you haven't done that before, this would be a great time to start doing that.
Okay.
Or in my case, one thing I'm considering doing is maybe more of a check-in at the end of the day. I haven't implemented that yet. If my team's watching, don't worry. I'm not sure we're going to do that yet. But I was thinking about adding something at the end of the day where we might be able to might be able to actually basically do a loop back at the end of the day to see how we're doing. And that idea I said earlier of being very open and be very available despite the technology or the distance between us because of the social distancing, where they can come find me or I could come find them at kind of at a moment's notice, really, using the tools that we have available to us, so that you just keep those line of communications open. So there's, I think, just over communicating, back to that initial comment, is I think really important because you aren't with them.
Okay. And so you as the boss just kind of have to get used to being more intentional about that communication, scheduling it, and using that time to kind of get status updates, get the feel and sense that yes, they are progressing on X, Y, and Z. A question that we've got now from the chat here, and I don't know if you can see it, Josh, or can you see that one?
I think I do. Yeah.
How do you maintain a social sense, when working remotely? So we're, around each other all day long, right? And now we don't have that. We don't have the social component of things as much. How do we replicate some of that at least, especially when a lot of us are starting to climb at the walls a little bit anyway with with the entrapment that we feel?
Sure. Well, so one of the chat tools that we use at McNary Marketing is Slack, the application called Slack, which is a really a chat room text-based tool. We have all kinds of channels, they call them, in there with regards to our client projects and internal company items. And we have one that there's just basically like chit chat. It's just meant to be kind of a fun thing. A lot of times they put GIFs in there or other little notes or something in the community that's going on in a normal circumstance. And also just generally on those threads sometimes when we're talking maybe about something serious for a business item, something will sneak in there. We'll post a picture of something funny, that relates to the project or whatnot.
Or something. Okay.
Yeah. So I mean that's one way with just a little thing that we do, and I've had different times in our history of using that we've used that more effectively than other times. But just creating some fun every once in a while is good. And then I've tried, especially in the last few weeks, because of the uncertainty, I've really tried to engage with my people and ask them really how they're doing. This is more again on the personal, serious side versus the fun side, but engage with them in these conversations. And sure, we want to get to work in these calls we have, but okay, how you doing? How's it going with the kids? Because that's something else we could talk about, is the kids or the distractions at home. But how is it going with that? How's it going? What have you been doing to keep busy? Try to create some of that. One other thing I'll throw out there is that I know in our community here in Cedar Rapids, we have a number of open coffees as well as networking events, 1 million cups and such. Mm-hmm. And some of those events have started going online. So we've like open coffee on Friday, usually is 8 o'clock at the market. Well, we're going to do that as a virtual coffee now instead. I'm sure any of you could join if you want to find it on Facebook, the new open coffee. But that's a way of also maybe trying to create some community or engagement that's outside of that heavy work, focusing and staring at your screen all day.
All right. On the Slack tool, is that a freebie too, or is that a?
Yeah. So Slack you can start with there's a free version. Again, we pay for it, but so I don't even remember what exactly the parameters of that, but at least I know in the past they've had a free deal. Okay. And so you would do that. I also throw out there just there's Microsoft Teams. There's another one if you're in the Microsoft environment that's got similar features to Slack. And another one that's been popularized over the last few years is Workplace by Facebook. So that's essentially Facebook, a private Facebook for your business. And that's obviously people are familiar with using Facebook and know how to post the fun stuff there too. So all three of those would be kind of chat tools that maybe you can have that side conversation in that allows for that kind of other engagement as well as real work business engagement.
Yep. Okay. As a tool like these ones that you've mentioned, Slack or Teams or any of these others, are they also functioning as the video conference tool, or do you need to stack these things on top of each other? So I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible for some of these folks that haven't done any of this before. Yeah.
So these tools do have ability to do multiple things. So for instance, Slack does have a video conferencing capability, but actually I just told my team, like as of this week, after going through last week that, hey, we're going to do our video calls on Zoom. Like if it's going to be a Zoom, if it's going to be a meeting with me, we're going to do it via Zoom because this technology is stronger and we can establish meetings clearly with it and have set times and all that. So sometimes while you can do everything in one tool, that some of these other tools were built initially as chat platforms, right? So then they have video added to them, whereas Zoom was created as a video platform and maybe has some chat features, and it does, but it doesn't have as robust of that as they are. So I tend to, even in our marketing technology and web development work, I always try to find the best in class tools that are available and then kind of link them up. And they're even, the part of what makes them best in class is they work well together. Okay. So like Zoom can actually integrate with Slack and vice versa. So you could do different things and make it work together. Now that's more advanced. You know, obviously right now you're just trying to get your feet in with you. So we started with Zoom because it's free and you got to get the video chats going or video discussions going.
Yep. How about project management? So you've got what once was an easy way to maybe walk down the hall and check in on status or have a face-to-face group meeting to check on status of X, Y, or Z or whatever.
Yes.
Isn't so easy anymore. So what are you suggesting? And I got to tell you, maybe one of the worst at this, but sometimes the project management software and keeping that updated takes more work and effort than it does to do the project itself. So we've got to do something that's easy and simple, and we've got to make it simple for our employees to do it, or they're not going to do it. Or if they do it, their efficiency is going to go into the toilet. So what do you suggest there?
Well, so we do a lot of work around this topic, both internally for McNary Marketing, as well as get involved with our clients. Often when it gets kind of the fulfillment stage of a project, say a web project or a e-commerce project, okay, what happens then, right? How does it get done? The thing, the task, the fulfillment, whatever. So from a standpoint of project management, at McNary Marketing, we use a tool called teamwork.com. And that's probably kind of like a college level, graduate level type of tool for project management. It's got more advanced features, right?
All right, what do we got for the third grade option?
We've been at it, but if from a standpoint of people that are trying to get started with this or trying to stand up something in this environment, I would suggest maybe 3 different tools we could quickly run through them. One is basecamp.com. Basecamp.com. They've been around for a long time. Really started to serve creative agencies, marketing agencies, et cetera, back in the day, graphic design people. But it's a very robust tool in the sense it's a well-oiled machine. They've been around a long time, but simple. You create a project, task list, comment section, threads, et cetera. Very streamlined and kind of nice user interface. So clean and easy to use that way. It's all web-based. So Basecamp would be a good one. Another one's popular is Asana. You might have heard of Asana.com before. Asana.
Spell that one for me.
Oh, it's the
Sounds like
Asana.
a martial arts move.
Asana.com. Also clean interface, simplistic in ways, maybe a little bit, have a little bit more advanced features than a Basecamp, but still simplistic on the simplistic side versus the tool that we use, the teamwork.com. And then a third I'll throw out there is Trello.com, which is really kind of I equate it to an agile scrum, if you've ever heard of that project management methodology. It's a particular way that a lot of startups work or development teams work, is the agile scrum methodology. And what Trello does that emulates that methodology is it basically has columns. You create columns first. You create a project board, and then you put columns on it. And essentially every task becomes a card on that goes in one of these columns. So you might say, here's all the things we need to do on the project in column, in the what we call like the backlog or the task to do. And you might have 10 items. And then the next one over says, okay, it's in progress. We're working on it. Or the next one is, okay, it needs to be reviewed by the manager. The next one is it's done, for instance.
Okay.
So you can basically assign those cards to individuals and do comments on them and such and move them across the board. You can visually see the progress. So they say you could do one of those for every one of your employees, and you can easily keep track of like, what are they working on right now and where are they at, for instance.
And what was the name on that one
That
again?
was Trello. Trello.com.
All right, cool. All right. Let's see here. How do we talk about, this is kind of a last wrap up question, but
Sure.
um, so we've got folks working remotely, virtually. We want to feel like they're doing something. How do we communicate with them in a way that isn't big brother looking over their shoulder, this non-trusting skeptic of, are you doing anything? Or are you just watching Netflix type of thing? Are you doing like daily goal setting, or yeah, maybe it's weekly or maybe it's hourly, I don't know, but how are you kind of getting how are you feeling confident, other than that you've hired good people, but how do you take that the next step now that they're not right here and I can't reach out and touch them, so to speak?
Yeah, I think the theme of this conversation today has been that idea of trust and transparency when we're not physically in the same room. And I'm going to be the first to tell you, I say this in my marketing and web development work as well, these tools that we've talked about today, the technology by itself does not solve that problem. I mean, you need to be a manager. You still need to use the same techniques and tools and evolving improvement in your management. You just now need to use these tools to help apply it. So I don't know if I've got the magic solution. I don't think I do, but I do think these tools can help you create in your business and what you do, a lifeline, a connection in a way as you start exploring them and considering them, to be able to have those goals set and those metrics set. We just talked about Trello. Okay, you could set a board every week and say, these are the 10 things I need to do this week. Did they get done? That's a way of measuring. Maybe it's just an email. Maybe it's just an email every week. We're going to say at the beginning of the week, here's the 10 things I need you to do. And then at the end of the week, we're going to review that together. Maybe that's in a day, it's 10 items in a day versus in a week. Basically, you're applying the same things you were doing in the office, maybe in those quick discussions at a desk, but you're just using these tools to do it. So I can't have this silver lining perfect solution for everybody, but I certainly think that these tools can help you create the mix that works best for you.
I mean, it definitely sounds like, when they were so easy to confront, talk to, whatever, when we're all in the office together, I now, as the boss, have to take a much more proactive approach to this and whatnot, in terms of planning and being the one reaching out, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
We want to wrap at 2:30. We do have one more question in the Q&A.
Sure. Go ahead.
So just for everybody who's out there, if you want to take off, we know the governor's doing an address again at 2:30 today, so we don't want to be cannibalizing that or in any way, shape, or form. But if you want to stick around, we'll talk for a few more minutes and then we'll close it up. Again, our next session, Patrick, can you help me out again? What are we talking about next?
Yeah, so we're doing these types of conversations every day, 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. Tomorrow morning, we've got our friends from Brown Winnick on to come and talk about some of the changes to the employment regulations during the crisis.
Perfect. Yeah, we'll be talking about how things are now impacted with changes to unemployment law and things like that. So I forgot. Thank you, Patrick. This last question that I've got here, can you see that one too, Josh? It's in the Q&A, but
I can, yeah.
What's your thoughts on that, or how do you approach that for yourself? I know you have employees that have worked in place with you and now are virtual. How do you do that?
So any thoughts on adjusting tasks to better fit remote working is the question I'm seeing. So adjusting tasks. So I think that's going to vary by profession as to what exactly that the person asking the question is getting to. But there certainly is ways to think about breaking tasks up differently. So breaking the task maybe into, there's this tendency, again, in any normal productivity setting, to create a task that's too big. You create a task that's just too big at itself, and so you or the person never wants to act on it because there's this tension of like, how do I even get started on that task? It's just too big of a rock. So breaking the task down into smaller pieces often can lead to that. Or it might be a situation where, hey, we physically need to do something at the office, but we could do these other 3 tasks ahead of it so that we can group those tasks when one person goes to the office to handle the mail or something. So there might be ways to think about that in this environment where you break up the task into different sizing or chunks, maybe batch things that have to happen, say that has to happen at the office, or get passed on to somebody else in a different way than maybe the way they were before. That's one thought. That's not sure that's addressing the question directly, but that's just one thought that comes to mind off of the question.
Okay. Yeah, no, thanks. Any kind of last minute thoughts you want to wrap up with, Josh, or things
Yeah,
that?
well, I kind of mentioned earlier that we put together a McNary marketing website called remoteworkingfromhome.com, remoteworkingfromhome.com a few
Okay.
weeks back because of our knowledge of this experience, of this type of stuff. And that's actually got a lot of articles that my contractors and the people that we work with have written, and we've started posting up there pretty much daily. And that might be something to give your employees as well, that kind of site, or other articles that you find out there, wherever they're from, to help them figure out how to be a remote worker, because they've never done it before either. So that might be one other angle we didn't really touch on, is how do you support them through this change in their lifestyle, and now they've got the kids running around, and how do you help them kind of overcome the obstacles that you're worried about? So that might be something to think about, whether it be our site, remoteworkingfromhome.com, or other resources. I know that the Business Center have some of that kind of material and stuff as well that you could share. So look for those resources and maybe try to help your people learn how to do what they're doing better. That might help you have more transparency and understanding of how they're working.
Yeah, I know this will be archived and put on our social media channels, et cetera, and we'll be sure to drop a link for that. Was it what was it again?
Remoteworkingfromhome.com. Yep.
All right, cool. All right.
And you can find me at mcnarymarketing.com as well.
Great. Patrick, anything you want to finish with? Otherwise, thank you everybody for your time. And again, we recognize that this is just an incredibly crazy, uncharted phase we're in right now. Small companies, we're doing everything we can to bring information, working a lot one-on-one with companies as well. So if you've got challenges or you think we can help, please let us know.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Dan, and thanks, Josh, for the time this afternoon. Thank you, everyone who watched us live in Zoom and on Facebook, and for joining our series, Coping with COVID-19, Creative Solutions for Your Business on this day, Tuesday, March 24th. We'll be back every day this week, 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. That full schedule is available on advanceiowa.com. We'd love to be able to have you come and join us. Each of these is recorded and will be able to be viewed at a later date on YouTube. Last quick announcements. Dan mentioned it too, and so on our afternoon ones every day, we're going to try and wrap up. The governor is planning to do, and is probably at the very start of another one of her press conferences with the daily COVID-19 updates as things continue to change and progress. We want to keep you up to date with those. We appreciate your time and interest in this, and know that there's lots of people here, both at the university and all across the state, that have put together some really awesome resources to try and help the businesses go through this ever-changing economy. So with that, we'll wrap up, and we'll hope to see everyone else. We'll hope to see you back again at one of our other webinars later this week.
Cool. Thanks, Patrick. Thanks, Joshua.
Thanks, everybody. See ya.
Take care.